Yeah, I'll share that in just a second. Just wanted to say thank you very much for inviting me to this. My name is Alan Pleus. I'm the Aquatic Invasive Species Unit Manager for the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm also the Incident Commander for the European Green Crab Emergency Management Response. So and my staff have probably worked with many of you, and I just wanted to give you a brief update on funding status, where we are. Quickly share a screen. So you can. So this is a graphic that I've showed before, but it just sort of says this is where we have found European green crab in the state. And so we have what we call hotspot areas up in the North Puget Sound, primarily Lummi, Samish area, Drayton Harbor, with approximately 80,000, almost 81,000 crab caught this in 2022 as compared to a little bit less than was caught in 2021. I think that goes a long ways to credit the Lummi Nation and the amount of work they've put into the sea pond and being able to continue trapping down. Another one is the coast, which is the Macaw tribe, and they captured over 26,000 European green crab. All right, so sorry, this thing has an automated time thing going on, and let me just see if I can escape out of that. So I'm just going to go with this slide. Can you still see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, the Macaw tribe has done an extensive amount of trapping out in Macaw Bay on the outside coastal. They've also been trapping in Nia Bay and outside that area. They haven't they have not captured any live European green crab on the Strait of Juan de Fuca side, but they have been catching them significantly in the Macaw Bay side. And that continues. It actually was an exponential increase in 2022 over 2021. Going further south down into Grays Harbor, extensive new trapping starting down there. Not as much as we'd hoped in 2022, but still significant increase, especially with a couple of the growers in that area. And then down into Wilpa Bay, there's an exponential increase in trapping down there. Shoalwater Bay tribe was a major supporter, tribal co-manager down there working on these issues, as well as significant numbers of shellfish growers were contributing to capturing. So in total, Wilpa Bay captured almost 155,000 European green crab. So as we move forward, over 286,000 statewide captured in 2022. And that's so, and most of the increase of those is on the coast. So as we move forward, looking at how to best utilize our resources in those areas, that does not mean that we sort of ignore everywhere else, because early detection is a critical aspect so that we can detect new populations as quickly as possible. And we have to have adequate resources for those, as well as being able to provide rapid response for other locations. So right now, there's not, the southernmost portion that we've detected green crab would be in the Hood Canal, Seebeck area. In the other parts of the Puget Sound, they haven't been found south of, Whidbey Island. And so we would love to see that maintained that way, but there's extensive amounts of early detection going on. And I know many tribes in both areas are interested in obviously continuing what they're doing, but in starting to do new training and getting traps out there, and both for early detection and being capable of doing rapid response. So the funding that we received last year was we got $8.56 million for the biennium. A portion of that was spent in the first year, a very short period of 3 months. And that was really a ramp up in expenditures for equipment and such. And then the fiscal year 23 was the ongoing portion, which was about 6 million, almost $6.1 million. That was for statewide management, of which there was pass-through funding to the Lummi Nation, to the Makah tribe, and Washington Sea Grant and Northwest Straits Commission. So those are ongoing, very high important areas to continue funding. We have the governor put in his budget, and both the House and Senate kept the same amount, just slightly lower. It's a 6.08 million rather than 6.09 million last year. Only about $14,000 difference, but we're basically status quo on our funding levels going into this biennium. We are working with our tribal co-managers to assess which areas, again, are of where do we put our monies to support our tribal co-managers. Another thing I wanted to point out is, as far as funding, this is a letter that the department sent to our congressional legislators in Washington, D.C., and asking for funding and reestablishment of the Office of Aquatic Invasive Species at the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA headquarters. That was a very critical office back 10, 15 years ago, and they basically lost their funding and are no longer able to adequately support a lot. There are some support levels that are going on with NOAA, but it's not at the level that we need. And establishing that office is a critical piece to getting better federal funding flow to the tribes, as well as other partners in the statewide. Another aspect, back in 2018, there was a bill passed which primarily dealt with ballast water, called the Vessel Incidental Discharge Act. And in that act, there was a provision for a coastal aquatic invasive species mitigation grant program to be funded at $5 million. That's a national program, and it has yet to be implemented and funded. And so we're trying to get that going. That can be used for green crab. And so we want to make sure that that's moving forward, as well as asking that they provide robust funding for green crab prevention, management, and data stewardship, to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to support their work on their refuges, U.S. Geological Surveys, their research program to really help us, figure out the better ways and to trap and control European green crab, Bureau of Indian Affairs. And that's, again, another pathway for the tribes to receive federal funding for this at a much higher level than they are currently receiving. And U.S. Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service to support the coastal shellfish growers in this situation. And I would assume that would include tribal shellfish growers. So that's really the sum of it. We're status quo with the state funding program, and we were working hard to get federal funding coming in. And the federal funding always takes time, but I think we have the right atmosphere. We know that our congressional leads are very concerned about this, very interested in it, and are moving forward as we speak to try to find avenues and find ways to fund these things. And this was just to help them, guide them where that funding is best applied at this time. So I think I'll leave it at that and answer any questions.
Thanks, Alan. Seems like we do maybe have a question or time for a question or two. So anyone have any questions about that? Thanks for summarizing the other opportunities and sources of funding available too. It's good to acknowledge that the state's not the only place to get funding, but it's great that the state is providing help and resources with this issue.
It's critical that our tribal co-managers, we work all together on this. We can't, the state can't do it alone. We need our tribal co-managers to support these efforts, and we're here to do what we can to continue and enhance and provide the support that we can. We have traps available for loaning. We can provide training opportunities. We can, work with people to do trapping in certain areas, things like that.
Yeah, that's excellent. And for anyone that's not aware, we also have a webinar coming up about aquatic invasives, and we'll have more discussion about it, European green crab in that. So there's lots of content about European green crab. And we had 2 or 3 presentations about it on Tuesday that we'll share online again soon. So lots of really great resources. Thanks, Alan, for sharing about the emergency funding and the great work you're doing. We'll go ahead and move on to Heidi now, but Alan, if you are available to stay, we'll have a broader discussion starting in 15 minutes or so, and there may be some more questions then.
Okay, and just to reiterate, we really appreciate the governor's office and the legislature for recognizing this level of emergency and providing the funding that is helping the tribes in this as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.